What's up guys, it's Scoopman5000. Today we're back for another action figure review, and today we're taking a look at the entirety of WWE Elite Series 85. That includes Aleister Black, Becky Lynch, Bray Wyatt, Karrion Kross, Liv Morgan, and The Undertaker. And like with AEW Series 4, which I just took a look at, I'm a bit late to this. I've had these guys for a few weeks, but I guess I've just had a bit of a busy schedule. But I still want to take a look at these figures. I think this is a great set. If you really look at this lineup, it's some of my absolute favorites on the roster, so definitely had to take a look at this set on the channel. As you can see, I'm showing off all the boxes kind of in pictures right now because it was too big to kind of even fit in the studio. But you can see on one side of the boxes, we're getting some renders of the characters. On the other, we're getting some in-ring shots. And then, of course, the back has those same in-ring shots. It has career stats, names, other characters in the wave, and everything like that. But we have 6 figures to look at, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to go rapid fire, and that starts us out with Aleister Black. And Aleister Black, the recently returning SmackDown superstar, and also a figure, his original Elite, very hard to come by. Or I guess he's had maybe an NXT one before that, but that first main roster Elite figure, I remember I had to pay like $70 for it because I didn't get it on ringside. So now we have another way to get him back into the line. Let's just hope he doesn't change up his ring gear. For his accessories, he's coming included with a pair of fist hands. He's also got a pair of gripping hands, and then he's got his WrestleMania entrance jacket. And because of the nature of this thing, it's the big rubber cone style of entrance jacket. Now his arms are exposed, so you can get some articulation with it, but it is going to be pretty limiting otherwise. But it does have very nice sculpt as per usual on these types of goods. But that leaves us with our Aleister Black figure. And if you have that previous Elite, it's mostly the same. Here he's in the all black attire, and the other one I think it was more of a two-tone. We're going to be taking a look in just one second. But really the name of the game with Aleister Black figures is going to be all those tattoos. He's tatted all over his body, and luckily in Mattel form, it's done pretty faithfully, pretty accurate, and you got some beautiful colors on the figure as well. So even at the head sculpt here, you can see the little bits of tattoos here on the side of the head, and that likeness is pretty excellent. Pretty sure this is the same head sculpt, but it looks like the hair color is a bit different. And again, when we get to comparisons, we're going to be looking at the previous figure. But really, the tattoos, like I said, the focus, some incredible work here. Colors, you got yellows and blues and reds and green. The whole spectrum is here. Looks like a shark on the side. When you get to the back, he's got this big kind of devil mask on the back there. And this is all being done on pretty stock Elite parts. None of these parts are unique to him unless you get to the boot, in which case the left side is done in this spiked pattern. That's really the only unique sculpting. But that boot sculpt is pretty interesting. It doesn't really hinder much, but it is just another thing that makes Aleister Black unique, I guess you could say. To go over his articulation, the head's looking up that far, forward that much. Really not the best on this guy, but he does have a pretty decent tilt. Back that far, forward that much. Hinge at the shoulder and a swivel. Bicep cut is very tight on him, but it is there. Single jointed elbow about 90 degrees, and then hinges and swivel at the hands. Swivel at the waist. The legs are splitting out pretty decently for an Elite figure. Kicking back not so much. Forward is that far. Double jointed knee, always going to be blocked by those big knee pads. Cut at the boot, then we do get a hinge at the boot and a slight rotation. For your Aleister Black comparison, haven't done this in a while, but here he is with the basic Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. And here he is with the Elite Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. And then here he is with the previous Aleister Black Elite figure. And you can see mostly the same detailing here, but if anything, I think the tattoos look a bit more realistic. The painting on the face is especially way better on this new one. So I think he is slightly an upgrade, but still an upgrade at that. And up next is Becky Lynch, kind of the weird outlier of the set just because she's not as relevant on TV nowadays. Obviously, she just had a kid and she's been out of TV for months. And this is actually depicting, I think, towards the end of her latest run because of the accessories we're getting. First, we'll start out with the hands, of course. It's just gripping and fisted hands. But when we get to accessories, of course, we have the Raw Women's Championship, which she left the brand carrying. And that's a belt we've seen a million times, but I'm always an advocate of just getting more belts just to add value to these figures. And she's actually the only one in the set with one. But with that, we're also getting the Women's Money in the Bank, which is a bit more of a rare accessory. And it's also something Becky Lynch didn't hold. But obviously, that's what Asuka won, and then that's what she was rewarded with the Women's Championship after that because Becky Lynch had to leave. So I guess this outfit is probably from one of her last defenses. I didn't read the back of the box, and now I don't know where I put it. But for that reason, and also because we got so many Becky Lynches during that run, I didn't really want to like this figure, or I didn't even think I needed it. But just so happens we ordered the whole set, and Becky Lynch is a part of that. But I will say this is an excellent figure, and especially if you don't have any other Becky Lynches for whatever reason, this one is pretty excellent. I think the head sculpt was a great choice. This is probably one of the better likenesses she's had, and they keep improving with their face printing and all that. And then we get to the rest of it. I can't imagine much of this is unique. I'm thinking maybe the torso, but that also might just be painted. Yeah, it looks like that's painted. So no real unique parts, but very interesting, very cool, is that this is one of the first times, at least as far as I can tell, we're getting double jointed elbows on an Elite figure. These might even be the same arms from that Ultimate Edition Becky Lynch. And we'll see that with our next figure as well. These two have double jointed elbows, but this is really just a very refined and very well-made Becky Lynch Elite after so many that have come before it, I guess you could say. For articulation, it's going to be limited by that hair, so the head's not really looking up. It does look down maybe slightly, but we are getting tilt. The torso is incredible on these female figures. I always think this is the way to go on action figure torsos. Tons of movement, tons of rotation and tilt. The waist is going to swivel, the shoulder hinges and swivels, upper bicep cut. That double jointed elbow, we can see that put to use. It's actually a bit stiff towards the bicep, but you can see that's like all the way. If anything, it could probably go more if it wasn't for this hair, but very good, very useful, and it's not the ugliest one in the world. I've definitely seen worse looking double jointed elbows than something like a McFarlane, but just to see any innovation in a line that's this old is very good stuff. So love the double joints, keep that going. Almost forgetting the wrists here with the swivel and the hinge. The legs are splitting out pretty decent, no kickback because of the sculpt. Forward that much. Double jointed knee, no knee pads to block that, and you're getting a hinge at the boot. Doesn't feel like any rotation. For comparison, here she is with the basic Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, and with the Elite Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. Here she is with Ultimate Edition Charlotte and Network Spotlight Asuka, and then finally with the Man Elite figure, and then with the Ultimate Edition Becky Lynch as well. And up next, you got the Firefly Funhouse Bray Wyatt. Definitely one of my most exciting of the wave, just because I love Bray Wyatt and all of his figures. You haven't seen him on TV in a couple weeks, which is really horrible, but I guess I can feel better with this brand new Bray Wyatt figure. And this is basically an upgrade to that ringside Firefly Funhouse figure, which we did take a look at in a review. Got weird orange pants that I don't think I've ever seen him wear, but the shirt and everything looks pretty accurate to me. He's worn like a dark red before. When we get to his accessories, he's coming included with those hurt and heel open gloved hands. We saw these on the first Elite, on the Ultimate, and now with this figure. He's also got a pair of plain hands, one pair is gripping, and then another is for his signature wave at the end of the Funhouse. And then finally, the most exciting accessory, and someone who kind of completes a set, if you will, is Huskus the Pig Boy, one of the puppets from the Firefly Funhouse, and the one that was notably missing from that ringside exclusive. And he's great. He's almost a character of his own. No articulation or anything, but he's the same kind of style of those ringside ones. He almost counts as an alternate hand because he has the little socket and he can be held as a hand puppet. Not something they actually do on TV, but still it's cool. It's a cool way to display these figures, I guess, is holding them in the hands. And now here we are with the Funhouse Bray Wyatt. And again, the colors are kind of strange, and I don't know if they're accurate to something specific. I think there's kind of been debate online whether or not these pants and all this, basically both the colors, the shirt and the pants, even looks right. But for me, I like it, and I kind of like it just because we've had two figures already depicting a Funhouse Bray Wyatt, and now we're here, and while maybe he would have looked better with some more kind of khaki looking pants, I don't hate this, and he's going to stick out, and he's going to be different, and for someone like me who wants to get every single figure, I'll take a different color, just to kind of make it justified, I guess. But other than that, the head sculpt is the same. We've seen this, like I said, on the Elite and on the Basic, so nothing new here, and the paint looks pretty identical as well. This torso really is the most exciting part. The pants are pretty much the same Bray Wyatt pants we've been getting forever, and the boots as well. But this torso got some brand new sculpt, and this is why I hope we get more figures with it, is because we're getting the collar sculpted finally. Because when we got that ringside figure, it would just look like a flat sweater. And I think that was accurate to the appearance they were basing it on. But either way, this was definitely the more iconic and more interesting way to go with the collar sculpted in. This whole midsection seems new to me. And I also saw some kind of debate that they thought the lower abs here, the lower torso, looked like it was on backwards. And I admit it does have a weird cut. It doesn't look like it exactly aligns, but I guess let me know what you think. It doesn't seem like it's backwards because then you'd kind of have like a back stomach, and this angle seems right, but it is definitely a weird cut. It doesn't look like it's one cohesive piece. But definitely the best part, like with the Becky Lynch, is the all-new sculpted, double-jointed elbows. So in this case, we're actually getting some cloth texturing on the arms, and these arms are double-jointed. And they're very good for Bray Wyatt, so he can do these kind of poses with the hands or with Huskus. And so you take a figure where he's kind of in, you know, a sweater and khakis, but he's kind of one of the more movable of the set. So you can definitely do some great photography with this guy. And the double joints on here look even better than they did on Becky Lynch. I think that's a pretty good shape. So overall, some really good stuff. With that, we'll move into the articulation that's going to tie in. So the head's looking back, forward. You do get some tilt. Torso goes back pretty decent and forward. I guess there's more surface area to move around. Shoulder hinging almost past 180. Do have a swivel as well. Upper bicep cut. That double jointed elbow, pretty much going all the way. You can touch his face. And then hinge and swivel at the wrist. Swivel at the waist. Legs are kicking out pretty decent. Not looking back at all. Forward is that far. The double jointed knees are pretty decent on these Bray Wyatt pants, going back almost all the way. And he's actually getting a ball joint that has more movement than the rest of these figures on the feet. For comparison, here he is with the basic Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. Here he is with the Elite Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. Here he is with Randy Orton and Alexa Bliss. Here he is with the Elite 77 or the Top Picks Bray Wyatt, and then with the Ultimate Edition Bray Wyatt. And then for our Funhouse comparison, here is with the ringside exclusive Elite figure. It's worth noting these hands are from the Elite. He only came with plain versions. And then the basic, which I still think might be the best looking one of the three, which is so shocking to say. But I think if anything, this figure definitely puts this one to shame. He looks like he's wearing a compression shirt. His torso's too small. There's a lot wrong with this figure, but I guess he came out kind of rushed. This is definitely a much better figure, but in terms of color scheme, I gotta give it to this one. This is definitely the most iconic look of the Funhouse Bray Wyatt. And then we have Karrion Kross, a beast of a figure, and the first time in the line of the set. So if you're somebody who only gets one of each figure, this would be the figure you're gonna get, the NXT champion, Karrion Kross. And I'm very behind on NXT, so honestly, my Karrion Kross knowledge is not the best, but from what I have seen, I do enjoy his work. Definitely going to have to get that Scarlet Basic. As for his accessories, we're getting fist hands, we're getting gripping hands, and then we're getting a entrance jacket. This time, as opposed to the Aleister Black hard rubber, this one is the kind of pleather jacket, just like the Undertaker Legends figure that we just took a look at. And anyone looks cool in a black duster like that. But taking that off, we're getting a pretty solid figure. And again, like with a lot of these, or at least with the Becky Lynch, with the Aleister Black, kind of some basic ring gear. But we're getting some good paint apps. Definitely the tattoos, similar to Aleister Black. Very well done here. Some blue, some red in there, and the fading effect is pretty good as well. I'm glossing over the head sculpt here, but that's definitely incredible looking. And the paint especially. I mean, this is when the paint is absolutely 100% aligned and looks great with this kind of real scan photo printing. I really can't find a single issue with that. I think I got like a perfect one. When we get to the rest of his ring gear, not so much is going on. We got the cross symbol, and then the rest of it, black boots, black kick pads, some kind of sock under here. They painted the calf black, and then we do get the black knee pads, but all that is pretty basic. But I think this is definitely simple and effective, and it's accurate to Karrion Kross. He's not the most flashy guy, but he's just a big scary dude with cool tattoos and a great looking face sculpt. So they definitely nailed that. I think he is a bit incomplete without that Scarlet Basic, but I haven't picked that up yet, but I definitely will have to do that soon. To go over his articulation, head's going up that far, forward that much, pretty decent actually. Not getting a lot of tilt though. Torso looking back, forward that much, shoulders going up that far, getting a swivel, upper bicep cut, single jointed elbow not that great because his big muscles are in the way. You do get the hinge and the swivel at the wrist. Splits are going back that far, not kicking back, kicking forward that much. Double jointed knee, blocked by that knee pad. Very tight swivel at the boot, and then we're getting a hinge and a bit of rotation as well. For Karrion Kross, here he is with the basic Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. And here he is with the Elite Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. And our second to last figure is Liv Morgan. Another very exciting one of the wave, I think. Especially for me, I didn't get that first Elite figure, the Riot Squad version, that came with the little potted plant for some reason. But that figure, again, that became super expensive. I think even more so than the Aleister Black I was talking about. So I never got the chance to pick that one up. I do have the basic, and we're going to take a look at that in comparison. But here, this is a totally brand new, I think this is the most unique sculpting, maybe other than the Undertaker, but these two definitely have the most unique sculpt happening. I think the likeness is incredible. For accessories, we're not getting as much. We're getting some posing hands, ones with the L hand, and then ones more open. Those are the ones that come on the figure. Then we're getting a pair of gripping hands, and they got some nice nail polish, half black and half white, and that looks pretty good. And then finally, the most unique accessory is the bathrobe that came out. Is the bathrobe accessory. This is of course depicting her in those vignettes that she had a year and a half or so ago on Raw when she was kind of Liv Morgan reborn, coming out of the bathtub. And it turns out that was all just a part of the whole Rusev and Bobby Lashley and Lana kind of affair. After this, she kind of fought Ruby Riott, and now they're part of the Riot Squad again. So if anything, maybe that previous figure is a bit more close to what she's wearing nowadays. But I guess that's just the way it is with a lot of these Elite releases. We're getting them a year later, and sometimes it just isn't accurate anymore. But I still think it's a great figure, and for now, this is going to be my Liv Morgan on display. And she's not someone who's going to get figures every month, every 3 months. So this is going to be it for a while, and I think thankfully, it is a great figure. So again, head sculpt, that's pretty good likeness. I think she's got one of those faces that might be hard to translate onto a figure. So they did a pretty bang up job on here. And the hair sculpt is pretty nice too. It does limit movement, obviously, but it does look good. But really a lot of details to go over here. This whole kind of Catwoman leather look with all the straps and harnesses going on. We do have that like choker necklace even painted onto the neck here. Some straps and buckles going down into the ring gear. And even here, where something like this could all be painted, all this is sculpted and textured, so really impressive, especially for a female figure. Even right here, something you don't see a lot is kind of the thigh being sculpted even with this kind of detail, this kind of strap going around the left thigh. That gets its own unique sculpted part, and it even looks like this thigh is slightly sculpted because of what we're getting here with this kind of extension of the boot. And I will say this figure probably has the sloppiest paint. You can see kind of up here there's a bit of slop, and then also on each one of the legs here. But she's kind of got the most going on, so I guess that isn't that shocking. But what is here is pretty incredible. All the little paint on the little rivets and divots, and then on the boots we're getting a lot of silver paint as well. But all the unique sculpting here, obviously the head sculpt, the torso, lower torso, both thighs I think, and then the knee pads. So really impressive stuff. And then a cool accessory again in that bathrobe. And obviously she had that previous Elite figure, but for me this almost feels like this is the true Liv Morgan Elite figure, and it has the same excitement as getting a first time in the line. For articulation, the head's not really moving as much because of that hair sculpt, and really the sculpt of the female torso anyway, but because of that, very good back, and you can see even that's painted. Forward that much, shoulders going up, it's swiveling, upper bicep cut, single jointed elbow, goes past 90, but it's still not as good as that Becky Lynch elbow. And then we're getting some rotation and hinge at the wrist, swivel at the waist, we're getting the leg split, upper thigh cut, double jointed knee but severely limited by that knee pad, cut at the boot, and then we're getting hinge and a bit of a swivel at the boot. For your comparison, here's Liv Morgan with the basic Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, and then with the Elite Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. And then with some basic figures, here's the other Liv Morgan figure that I have, and the Ruby Riott as well. And finally, here it is, the main event, and that is The Undertaker. One of the most anticipated releases, I would have to think, because this is depicting the legendary Boneyard match from last year's WrestleMania. And as of right now, that is The Undertaker's final match. And this is also a point where he kind of brought back the American Badass. As you could see, some definite inspiration of that in the attire. But this was kind of an amalgamation of every Undertaker. This was really the great send-off, because this was The Undertaker, but it was also him in real life. And it was all that combined into a character. And that was really the culmination, I guess, was the Boneyard match. As for his accessories, we're getting a pair of gripping hands with those MMA gloves. He's also getting those in a chokeslam variation. He's also coming included with that bandana that is removable. And then finally, a unique accessory is the shovel. And this also does break into two pieces, kind of the front spade and the handle all kind of come apart if you want to have him break it in half and start beating AJ Styles up with it. But what we're left with here is a pretty impressive release, an exciting one of a character. Undertaker obviously has so many figures, but this is one that's unique, and I think one that every Undertaker collector, whether you're a Legends collector or a current day collector, I think you need this figure. And without further ado, I guess we'll start up at that head sculpt. We can remove the bandana just to take a look at what's going on here. And you can see he's got kind of the side shave look and then the ponytail kind of braid going down. Very biker looking Undertaker, obviously. I think this head sculpt, like actually the face, might be something we've seen before, or they just kind of have all the same expression. The tattoos is all stuff we've seen before with Undertaker figures. It's always going to look good. I think the outfit here is really the big difference, the big thing to review. And I will say, I'm actually disappointed in a big aspect of this figure, and that is the vest here. And I mean, if you look at it, maybe there wasn't another way, but I think just sculpting it as a torso and giving it articulation, maybe it'd look a bit slim, but I think the alternative, which was this, it makes it look too big. I think he just looks like he's wearing a pillowcase or something, if that makes sense. And especially when you go to the side here, it's definitely got like a Rob Liefeld Captain America thing going on here. Really ridiculous kind of chest, and then the whole body just kind of looks down. I mean, this is just a bit ridiculous looking in my opinion. But I guess the trade-off or the benefit of that is just some really nice sculpt, and sculpt that's consistent with the legs, which are done very well. So almost similar to Liv Morgan, we got a lot of straps and buckles and such, and a lot of silver rivets painted on. So some up here, some up here. It's kind of asymmetrical. These are kind of the main ones over here. On the back, we have the Undertaker logo encased in some bedazzled silver. For his articulation, the head's going to be looking back pretty good actually, and forward that much. The torso is pretty much limited entirely. I think underneath here is just a normal like Undertaker tank top torso that we've been getting on the past few Elites, but you can't really move it other than the swivel. But that kind of ab crunch, I mean, I guess it's moving, but it's just strange. It's not really going to work out in most cases. Shoulders going up that far, swivel at the bicep, single jointed elbow. This one's blocked by the elbow pad, so maybe that one's a better example. We're getting hinges and swivel at the wrist. The legs are splitting out. Oh my god. The legs split out all the way. Very impressive for the Undertaker. Doesn't kick back forward that much. Double jointed knee, almost going all the way back. And then like with Bray Wyatt, we're getting a ball joint at the feet. For comparison, here's Undertaker with the basic Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. And with the Elite Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. Here he is with the Elite 77 AJ Styles, the closest thing we have to a Boneyard version. And then with the Randy Orton Elite as well. And then for an Undertaker comparison, here he is with the recent Elite figure. This is a more modern look. I think this comes from like a WrestleMania Walmart series. And then also the Purple Glove Legends Undertaker, just to see a bit of evolution of the dead man. And overall, that does do it for WWE Elite Series 85, and I just had to look at this set. I think these are all great updates to characters we already have, and then with Karrion Kross, and even Liv Morgan to an extent, these are brand new versions that you definitely got to pick up. Undertaker, like I said, this represents his final match. That's very important. The Bray Wyatt's cool. He's got Huskus. Aleister Black coming back to the line after being a pretty rare figure. So I guess really the only one is Becky Lynch that you kind of don't need. And I think that's a great figure too. So overall, every single figure I think here is worth picking up. And this is definitely one of my favorite Elite sets in a long time. As always, I'm going to leave this off with some figure photography. And you can see my library on Instagram, scoopman_5000. But that does do it for this video. And I'll see you guys in the next action figure review.